I'm Cleo. This is Vlogging into the Void. I, told you guys I would use this YouTube to keep you updated on what's going on with my travels. So I have a little bit of a story to tell you. And a big problem to sort out. So here we go. The past couple weeks I've been in Medellin. It's the city of eternal spring. It's absolutely beautiful. So I've been here staying at a school called Nueva Lengua and taking dance and Spanish classes. But tomorrow is my last day of classes here at Nueva Lengua, and I only have until Sunday, in my room here, in my bed here. My plan had been for November, starting November 1st up until the end of November, to go and work on a small, organic, closed loop farm in Bolivia, in a tiny town called Buena Vista outside of Santa Cruz. And I found this farm through an organization called WOOF, the Worldwide Organization of Organic Farms, which has so many great reviews for, connecting people who want to volunteer and travel on a really low budget. Basically, it's free once you get there. And for people who are, farming organically and looking for cheap help. All you have to do is provide them a place to sleep and feed them. And I don't want this story to dissuade anybody from taking advantage of these kinds of programs, because they are really, really great. And they, are a unique window into another culture and another way of life. And the people who open up their farms to volunteers tend to be really excited to teach them about their lifestyle and about their farming practices and everything like that. So I found this farm in Bolivia and arranged with them to go and live there for the month of November. So the other day I emailed the host to let him know my flight itinerary and when exactly I'd be arriving, to ask specific directions as to how to get to the farm. So he gave me the directions, and then he said, I also attached an autobiographical introduction to myself, and in particular, why I am where I am. So I scroll down to see the attachment, and it's a Word document that's titled Essay, How I Became a Prepper. So when I first saw that, I sort of thought, I went back and reread it. I was like, I read that wrong. What's a prepper? But no, it says how I became a prepper. And I've since learned that that's an actual term. But some people know. I did not. How I became a prepper. Let's open this baby up, right? How I became a prepper. And I feel like at this point, reading it, I sort of had this inclination, premonition. Well, even in the email, when he said he was attaching an autobiographical essay, right? And I'm like, okay, if this is about his beliefs, that's kind of like a, I don't know, when you gotta attach an essay about it, it's gotta be pretty whack, right? And also, you gotta be pretty adamant about it. It's I don't attach an essay in every introduction email, about my political beliefs, even though I do, have very strong political beliefs. But I don't feel like they have to come into every relationship. So I was sort of okay, first red flag, before you even meet me, you're gonna lecture me on, why you think what you think. I don't know. Anyway.
I don't ever wanna seem salty, but these fake ass people thinking.
He opens sometime in the 70s, which is an period. After much reading, I came to develop a certain philosophy regarding life on Earth, the origins of man, and the fragility of his existence on the planet. This can be summarized as follows. Life on Earth, or what we generally refer to as nature, is a scientific experiment carried out by intelligent beings from elsewhere, logically called, in quotes, extraterrestrials. So that's good. So he basically starts out just saying how I became a prepper. After a bunch of reading, I, concluded that we were created by aliens. Anyway, then he cites a couple of authors. He says 3 authors had been particularly influential in leading me to where I was at. So all of these 3 authors are from like mid 1900s, and he hasn't updated them. And then he goes on and says, though my eyes had been opened to the perils of inhabiting a most violent and unpredictable cosmos that de facto, in italics, precluded the possibility of our biodiversity being the result of a long, drawn-out Darwinian evolutionary process. He says he was introduced to the theory of evolution as if it were fact. The possibility of intelligent design by an immaterial god, or heaven forbid, by flesh and blood ETs, was a complete non-starter. Okay, here we go. So he describes how he came to own the land. And it's called Quinta Sobrevivir, which, by the way, in English means survival farm. And he says it's about 100 kilometers northwest of Santa Cruz, where I've been developing a survival community since 2010. The plan is to turn it into a cooperative for 200 people well prepared to decide The plan is to turn it into a cooperative for 200 people well prepared The plan, I can't even say this, it's so bonkers. The plan is to turn it into a cooperative for 200 people well prepared to survive most conceivable disaster scenarios. Say that 10 times fast. What conceivable disaster scenarios, you may ask? Hang in there. At this point, it seems appropriate to discuss the topic of those likely disaster scenarios.
Had to do a real ignorant, blacked out
So
my beam, I had to do a real
the first one that's very dangerous, the first conceivable disaster scenario is nuclear war. That's, justifiable. It's like, that would be really, really bad. A man-made nuclear event due to either to war or an accident is primarily a northern hemisphere worry, though contamination would likely eventually reach every corner of the planet. But in the event of an accident at any of the handful of nuclear power plants in South America, the prevailing winds and distance mean that there would be little risk of serious contamination in Santa Cruz. The second disaster scenario is a reversal of the magnetic poles or the physical displacement of the Earth's rotational axis. What do you mean? I've never heard of this before.
I don't wanna talk, I just want head. Simpson changed
He
the
says that the magnetic pole is moving more than is normally expected is a fact. There's no citation, but okay. Whether it is caused by the not yet officially recognized presence of planet X/Nibiru in our solar system or by other factors is unimportant. So be very afraid of number 2. The magnetic pole is already moving, and if it reverses, you're fucked, it sounds like. The third threat is an electromagnetic pulse from the sun, whose effects on an electricity-dependent world would be widespread and devastating, and would mean an end to the world as we know it.
to make like 2 plays.
Urban life, at least, would immediately break down, with generalized panic and chaos. Okay, we've established nuclear war, reversal of magnetic poles, electromagnetic pulse from the sun, which I think is a real thing. And it's crazy because like you never know when it's coming, you never know where it is, you never know what it's done, but they can like reverse results of elections and stuff. But it's also like, am I afraid enough of this to go start a farm and a cult? That's for you to decide. What's number 4? Gradual climate change. Psych. Not gradual climate change. In fact, gradual climate change has no need to be considered catastrophic. Although a global political football and multi-billion-dollar industry, it is insignificant compared with naturally induced climate change. However, disaster scenario number 4 is a good one. Climate engineering, or geoengineering, can have catastrophic results not so much directly due to resultant climate changes themselves, but rather to the poisoning of the environment by chemtrails.
All the shake.
So just to refresh, right? We've got Earth and or human beings were created by aliens. Darwinian evolution is false. And now we know, one, that we are in imminent danger from a lot of different catastrophic scenarios that you have to prepare for. We've got a climate denier and a chemtrails dude. We've established four things that we now know about this guy. And right now we're on number 5, catastrophic scenario. The 5th is electromagnetic pollution. I'm gonna be real, I don't really know what that means.
Choking on lemon drops, you we say pop, lock and
I don't know, I read it and I imagine like a tinfoil hat, but I don't know. All I know from reading this essay is that there are at least 5 catastrophic scenarios that I should be very, very afraid of. And that this guy is putting a lot of work into preempting and preparing for. So, having outlined the most likely sources of catastrophe, it behooves me now to provide an insight to the preparations for survival that are underway at Quinta Sobrevivir. Thank God! I was like reading this whole thing and he's freaking me out about all these different scenarios, and I'm like, okay, like, what am I gonna do about electromagnetic pollution? Like, or the aliens? Like, how do I protect? I'm really glad he's giving us this information.
say I'm not those other guys.
Long-term survival is by communities, read cults, not by individuals. Hence, the next step is to recruit a community, read cult, of up to 200 people of different ages, backgrounds, skills, and knowledge.
Drops, you we say pop, lock and drop.
Okay, so once you have 200 people to survive the apocalypse with, like, what are the actual things that you need in order to survive it, right? Well, the first requisite is shelter, aka underground bunkers, right? Got him.
I'm not the type to bring the smoke.
Second requisite is water. It says currently we are blessed with 4 sources: a connection to local mains, a well, rainwater, and small stream.
You know negativity, oh wait, I'm sad.
The third requisite is food. I normally have on hand an assortment of rations, including live meat, that would enable us to survive for at least 6 months or more, provided that the catastrophe, whichever one it was, had not wiped out our livestock and or the crops in the ground.
What Jesus do, that's what my grandma said.
The fourth requisite is clothing. A pedal-powered sewing machine, already required, and knowledge of its use as well as supply of materials is the solution. Footwear can be made from animal skins and rubber tires.
I like to smoke out.
The fifth requisite is security. Not forgotten, but for security reasons, best left without further comment. Which is a nice way of saying, I would tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. Which to me, that means he has whatever he needs to kill me anyway. He signs off. 2 things are certain. Firstly, one cannot ever be too prepared. And secondly, even with the most complete preparations, there are possible scenarios that are effectively unsurvivable. Sincerely, my home in 4 days now.
Don't hit my line.
So, I don't know. I'm gonna keep updating y'all. I gotta figure this out. I sent an email to a non-profit organization that's working on public health as opposed to disaster survival in Santa Cruz. Or maybe I'll just like eat the cost of my flight and stay in Colombia. And I'm really torn. I might honestly just flip a coin on it. But actually, like, straight up, like, thank you, dude, for sending me this email, because like if you hadn't sent me this, I would be there in like 4 days. And I'd show up and be like, oh shit, like, you want me to breed the next, generation of human beings to repopulate the earth after the apocalypse? Like, that's not really my jam. It's like, I don't really want to participate. I'll be alright. We'll figure it out. Anyway, I'm gonna go to dance class.